Hello and welcome back to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Well, last time we played through the Special Cup on 150cc, and today we'll be playing through the Shell Cup on 150cc, and we're going to be using the first of the Koopalings, not included as a junior, of course, Lemmy. And we're going to be using the jet bike, along with the retro off-road wheels, why not? With the plane glider, here are the stats, and once again we're going to make sure that smart steering and auto acceleration are indeed disabled. And so without further ado, let's dive into the Shell Cup on 150cc. Let's do this. So in a previous episode, I think it was on Sunday that I discussed the idea of how I'm basically convinced at this point that a majority of the people on this planet judge the quality of something by the most superficial aspects imaginable, meaning the graphics and the surface level music and like all the superficial stuff like that can be bought with money, like, oh, look how shiny and pretty it is. Generated thanks in part to the large budget of the movie, which naturally allows some more higher fidelity visual effects and things like that. So, and the example I used is that Last Airbender, the movie, and Toy Story 4 share a lot of problems from a broken plot and broken characters perspective. But one movie has phenomenal acting, phenomenal music, and gorgeous visuals, and another has none of that. And Toy Story 4 people think is a masterpiece, and Last Airbender people rightfully say it's not, but I think the reason why isn't because... And the thing is, like, when you ask people what's wrong with the Last Airbender movie, people don't say because it looks bad and because the music sucks and because the acting is terrible. Well, some people say the last part, but usually people will cite the plot, the characters, and all the substantive aspects of it. But I think basically the point I was making is that, like, people will only notice those things if there's no eye candy to distract them, right? So Toy Story 4 has a lot of really gorgeous eye candy in the form of really masterful animation and jaw-dropping visual effects because the technology and quality of the animation nowadays is just utterly stunning. But I guarantee you that if it wasn't there and there was no eye candy to distract you, people would be a lot more willing to actually notice the character assassination, the blatant character assassination and broken plot than they would be if it is there. So, but I bring this up again because I actually thought of more prevalent examples that I could probably use to further highlight that theory that I didn't bring up last time. So I'll bring this up in the next race. So let's take two video games. This year, we'll see the release, this fall, or I guess this holiday, we'll see the release of Halo Infinite across Xbox consoles and PC. Last summer saw the release of The Last of Us Part 2. Now, I'm going to preface this, because I've chosen an Xbox game and a PlayStation game. I'm going to preface it because I have to say this every goddamn time, or else some moron in the comments is going to be like, lol, Xbox fanboy, or lol, Sony fanboy. So let me just say in advance that I own both consoles, and I play games on both of them, and I love games on both consoles, and if your mindset with terms of games is to just blindly attach your love of games to one piece of plastic over the other, then you're an idiot, and I don't respect anything you have to say. So I'll just be blunt about that up front. I have no respect for console fanboyism because I think it's stupid and pointless and it doesn't forward a healthy discussion in any discernible way. So, with that out of the way, I adore games on both Xbox and PlayStation, so let's just dive right into this. The Last of Us Part 2 released last year, and it is a visually breathtaking game. I don't think you'll find anyone on this planet that's going to deny that. It is visually stunning. Halo Infinite, I would say, is also a very visually impressive video game. Now, the difference being that in The Last of Us Part 2, you'd be hard-pressed to find something that isn't visually impressive, whereas in Halo Infinite, if you go up to a random fruit stand in the corner of the place, and then you shoot the fruit, it just disappears and doesn't actually have fruit physics. And you just... There's just a part of you that leads you to wonder, it's like... I don't... Okay, so the point that you can probably assume that I'm honestly trying to make, because the thing is, Halo Infinite's tech preview was released to almost unanimous praise. Like, obviously there's criticism to be pointed out, but it was a phenomenal tech preview, and I think that it's done great work for them to kind of use the feedback to stabilize the servers and refine the gameplay in time for launch. So now that I've set the stage, let's talk about how this relates to what I was talking about in the last race. The Last of Us Part 2 won Game of the Year last year. Now, that doesn't mean anything, because Game of the Year has never meant anything, and I think last year was just a perfect example of just a perfect opportunity for people to reaffirm our suspicions that, yeah, award shows don't mean jack shit. They've never meant anything, and this is just a perfect example of that. But if you talk to the average, like, a lot of people will list The Last of Us Part 2 as one of the best video games they've ever made, or that they've ever seen, that they've ever played. And even Jacksepticeye, which is a YouTuber that I really respect a lot, and I really, really like his content. His conclusion at the end of Last of Us Part 2 wasn't just that the game was phenomenal, but also dismissed a lot of criticism of the game of people, like, by basically, because to be clear, there are some people whose reaction to The Last of Us Part 2 was, what? A strong female character? Lol, I don't like that. And, like, obviously, those people exist. Obviously, I'm not an idiot, I'm not ignorant. I know that those people exist. They've always existed. There's always been morons and sexist people on this planet. They've always been people like that. There always, sadly, will be. But that doesn't occupy, like, obvious people exist like that, but that doesn't make up for, that doesn't make up the entire, oh, Jesus Christ, we're just getting killed by everything. That doesn't occupy the entirety of all criticism against Last of Us Part 2. So it hurts, it kind of hurt to see him say that, because it's like, Jack, come on, man, you gotta know that there's people that are criticizing the game for more than just, oh, strong female character. You gotta know that. Like, that just kind of stung to see. But, like, the story isn't well written, it doesn't make any sense, so much of it runs on pure contrivance. And even as someone who has no emotional connection to The Last of Us Part 1, the assassination of the characters in that first game is kind of like, yeah, you guys didn't even try at all. So those are things, and again, I don't even really care about The Last of Us at all. It's just like as an outsider looking in, it's like, wow, this story doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So it's just it's just weird to see. It's weird to see so many people praise this masterpiece. But the reason I bring it up is because Halo Infinite had some wonky physics, or not physics, but it was a thing where it's like, oh look, you shoot a random fruit stand and the fruit doesn't react, and because of that, people were like immediately able to dismiss it as like, oh, lol, isn't this game so bad? You shoot the fruit and nothing happens, and completely ignore all the quality gameplay there. Like, they just completely disregard the gameplay and all that. They're just like, well, look, I shot some fruit and nothing happened, lol. Whereas in Last of Us Part 2, you see the shiny graphics, you see the pretty visuals and the gorgeous lighting and the next-gen technology, and you just completely overlook all the insane plot contrivances and illogical story beats and characters that were assassinated. And it's just so fascinating to see this. It just further supports my theory that people only care about visual fidelity and the surface level details, and just, they don't want to look any deeper than that. It's really annoying to see. And in case some galaxy brain in the comments wants to rush to the conclusion, even though I explicitly said earlier that I'm a fan of both consoles, in case someone wants to say, oh, it's just an Xbox fanboy, I'm just... Fine, you know what, let me heavily criticize an Xbox, or at least a former Xbox exclusive, and praise the ever-living hell out of a Sony game. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is in contention for Game of the Year. I absolutely loved playing through the game. It's not flawless, I do have my criticisms, as I do with every game I play. Even my favorite game of all time, I still have a criticism of. It may be small, but I do still have a criticism of it that I think the game would be better off without its inclusion. There is no game I've ever played that is flawless. They can be close, but it's never going to be flawless. It is an impossibility for any piece of art to be completely flawless. It's not going to happen. But point being, Rift Apart is a phenomenal game with absolutely really, really fun gunplay, a great weapon variety, great level variety, great character work, great story beats, just really a fun experience from start to finish that was really clearly had a lot of passion and time and care put into it. The medium, however, like, it's not some wretched piece of filth, but I play it and I'm just like, why do I care? Because, like, the gimmick of the game was like, ooh, you can... It loads two worlds simultaneously. It loads the future world, or like, I think it's like it loads the regular world and then the underworld all at once, ooh, or like the spirit world or something. That's the whole point. It's like you're a spirit medium and you can channel, you exist in 2 dimensions at once or something like that. And the whole gimmick was like, oh look, split screen, you can see both worlds simultaneously. It loads 2 full-fledged worlds at the same time. Ooh, and I'm just like, why do I care? It felt like a game that was riding only on that gimmick and that gimmick alone and not on any actually substantive gameplay or anything like that. Because the gameplay itself, because the whole thing is like it's supposed to be a horror game. I love horror games. I really, really like a lot of, as long as the horror game is well made and the atmosphere is good and it's not just, it doesn't rely on cheap jump scares. As long as the atmosphere is really solid, I'm a big fan. But the medium was just a really slow, boring, tedious walking simulator with a story that could have been cool had it not been wrapped up in really monotonous gameplay. So, there you go. I just praised the ever-living hell out of a Sony game, and I criticized the hell out of an Xbox game. What more do you want me to say to try to convince you that I don't blindly ascribe myself to one platform over the other? Probably nothing, because the thing with console fanboyism is that no matter what you say to convince, like, if I were on Twitter and I praised Halo, people would call me an Xbox fanboy. But if I praised Rift Apart, I'd be called a PlayStation fanboy. If I praised Mario Kart 8, I'd be called a Nintendo fanboy. You just can't win. It's like there's no such thing as nuance when it comes to what games you like. I don't like people. I guess that's an overstatement, but I don't like console fanboyism. I never have and I never will. Anyway, let's give you the results, shall we? You've collected 1,050 coins, and so a new vehicle customization option has been unlocked, and we'll see what that is in the next video. But for now, that will be it for this episode. So, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for next time. I hope to catch you all tomorrow for some more Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Goodbye.